Alright guys, I was asked if I do a remake on the women hitting the wall at 30. Um, I think it's good to do a second video anyway, because it's good to talk about the responses from the first video. There's been a fair few bashing of me personally on it, which I find rather amusing. We go, oh, you're fat, you're this, you're bald, you're blah, blah, blah. You know what? I didn't mention any woman directly, and I didn't target anybody directly. At the same time, discussing a topic that some women said it's not true. Yeah, they've looked up on YouTube a video about hitting the wall at 30 as a woman. The reality is, it is true, and a lot of this arguing or attempted deflection comes from the inability to accept what's in the mirror. I don't care what other people say. I'm happy with being who I am. But at the same time, are you happy with being who you are? Because obviously this topic obviously hit a raw nerve. And that sort of is the point. Because a lot of it is a case of women have partied and done their stuff, blown a lot of chances with a lot of guys over the years. Got into this free love sort of society in the sense of going out on a Friday night and sleeping with somebody and stuff has become very normal. But the problem you get is for a guy to do it, it's not an issue. For a woman to do it, no guy's interested. And that's the reality. But on top of that, when women hit 25 plus, they do hit A, the wall, but B, the desire to settle down is there. It's called the biological clock. Men don't suffer with that. Women do. And people can say all about equality and etc. But reality is a lot of this stuff gets completely ignored. Women have a biological clock about having a child, having a family, and all this sort of stuff that pretend doesn't exist, yet the desire is still there. The other thing is, men don't need to be locked into relationships. Men are a lot happier. A lot of men are a lot happier on their own or in relationships that are not marriage, not 100% locked into a restrictive relationship such as living together. In fact, there's a friend of mine, he doesn't actually live with his wife. They separated, and he's got his own flat, and they do actually still date each other, but they're actually happier not being together, as in under the same roof. And they've been like that for about 10 years. But in all honesty, I find that guys have different priorities. As a lot of guys get older, their thoughts are about retirement, traveling, and if they're out of a relationship or paid their mortgage off, it is not about getting locked into a relationship and a series of debt. It's not about dealing with all the stress and anxiety and pressures that come with relationships. It's not about dealing with a problematic system that has burned their fingers up until that point. You will find a lot of guys aren't interested in getting in another relationship, especially not down the same road that they've been down before. Because let's face it, the guys often come out of a relationship with very little, but it often works in the favour of the woman, especially if it's gone down a route of marriage and divorce. So from that point of view, would a guy actually want to get down that route a second time or a third time? These days, a lot less than they used to. It just doesn't make any sense. Most people aren't as religious as they used to be, especially in Western society. So from that point of view, it doesn't make any sense at all. And even when you look back at women, Well, a lot of women are not as attractive as they think, and somebody's already, well, a few people mentioned that in the comments already. They overvalue themselves. Um, but the sort of moronic side of that as well, though, is that just from the comments section alone, you can see that women value looks above everything else. And there's nothing about personality, there's nothing about ability or anything else. Yeah, guess what? That's often what women lead with. It's about what the guy can give them. The looks. They may want the perfect teeth and all this sort of stuff. But guess what? Often money rules. Often the right job, the right car, all these sort of things can push the relationship in the direction they want. But the sort of moronic side of this is once they start getting over that certain age threshold, what they desire is pretty much often out of their reach now. And as somebody else mentioned, the thing with a guy in their 40s or whatever, if they decide to put extra effort on their looks, etc., they could date the daughter of the woman who was probably chasing them. And I would say that is true. Because let's face it, the world is more materialistic than it probably has ever been since the beginning of man. I said man on purpose there. That's a bit of a statement. But it's a more materialistic environment. As such, a guy that's, say, 48, 50, goes to the gym 3 times a week, diets well, etc. Could he get a woman in her 20s, 30s? Of course he could. If he's got the right job, the right background, the right sort of personality and look, it's not difficult. But it is a bit strange. Like I said, the complaint sort of arguing point is like direct attack at myself, as if the looks really bothered me, as if it's the only thing, because the whole element on this is that although hitting the wall at 30s for women is potentially about looks, a lot of stuff is about attitude. A lot of the women I just simply wouldn't date. Their personality just stinks. And I'm sure other guys out there would say the same. The same as the expectations way too high. In the sense of, it's all, I want this, I want that, I want that. It's like, you know what? I don't actually want you in my life. You just ain't worth it. And I suppose that's the bit that a lot of women don't like hearing and don't want to recognise. They put themselves on the pedestal. Maybe it's because they were daddy's little princess or whatever. But reality is, once you hit that certain age, your father's probably the only person who really cares. Especially if you've been partying for years and everybody knows your bed habits and all those late nights have taken their toll. It's just what you end up with. It's life. Lots of late nights do take their toll. But certainly not my fault. It's your own. And don't complain at me if you can't get a guy that you want. Because it's probably the way you've set up your criteria that you'll never get the guys you want. Because your criteria stinks. Like the personality a lot of the time. So, because guys don't really need a relationship. Guys are quite solemn in that front. A lot of guys are quite happy on their own. And especially if they've gone through the meat grinder that is often bad marriages. When they come out the other side, they don't want the hassle anymore. It's not about, oh, well, you can find a new love, all Sex in the City garbage. it's the reality is it's not worth the hassle. I know it's like a few of my friends have got a place in Bulgaria. They got a large house that they share, and they're all there at different times of the year. They're all men, and you know what? Not one of them is married. Not one of them's got an interest in getting married. They go off, do their work, go and chill out in Bulgaria, and if they're not Bulgaria, they're scuba diving and other stuff. Because the relationship isn't that important. That's one thing that all this freedom and female rights and stuff is actually emphasized. The value of the marriage and relationship has been devalued to the point that many people simply aren't interested. And it's not just like, oh, you're this age, you're this, blah, 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 because obviously I love personal attacks. Even if you studied a little bit and go and look at people that are 18 plus, especially if they've come from poorer backgrounds where they can see their parents, the way the father's been treated, come from a single home, and there's a disconnect. It doesn't matter. I'm not getting into being a one-sided argument here because people love to have that argument with me. The fact is, the broken home shows that the marriage doesn't work. But also when you see how the payment system's set up and getting locked into the 18 years of paying for child support and everything else, this is where a lot of guys are simply saying, it ain't worth the hassle. And that's just the reality. Because they're waking up to the fact marriage used to be a commitment because it was a bond between two parties that was supposed to be lifelong. Now, it's not lifelong. But B, the only thing that gets lifelong is the money. It's not you lose the partner, you lose the assets, you lose this. The only thing that, from a guy's point of view, is it's just an asset strip. From a woman's point of view, it's all about love, the house, the big day with the wedding, etc. They're not the same thing. And as such, it's simply not valid in a common sense way to even go down that route as a guy. And this is why you will find many guys are simply saying, not interested. But this is a funny thing when people go on about it and they go on a personal attack, and women go on a personal attack, guys generally don't. It's not arguing the case. You're actually proving the point of why not bother. Because rather than discussing the topic, it goes down a personal attack route, which emphasizes the point, it's not worth the hassle. Same as it's not worth the hassle me arguing with you about it, because your view is so, you've gone straight, the actual point of the video has gone over the head, and instead choose to argue instead. Proves my point. Thanks for watching.